What we do in life echoes in eternity. But what we do on podcasts lives on the internet until it no longer gets clicks. This is the Akamai Partner Champions Podcast.
Maxima, 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 Maxima. Hello, friends. Your old pal, Nick Watkins, host of the Akamai Partner Champions Podcast. Now, I felt like I needed to have an epic intro for an equally epic guest, but before I go into that, I want to talk to you about the word of the day for me, which is authenticity. Now, if you're tuning in and you happen to watch our last episode where I interviewed Gordon Lyon from Infinigate, you might be noticing, hey, I'm not looking at your AI-generated headshot anymore. You actually seem to be live and in living color. You are correct. In fact, I did hit the record button when we were going to do that interview, and everything looked good. We were both dressed to the nines. I even joked about getting a haircut for it because we were both going to be on video. And yet, when I went to export, video not found. And so the beauty of you guys coming along on this journey with me is that you get to learn along the way, and you get to see the fun and authentic things that happen from a weird guy who's just trying to get into podcasting. And so with that all said, I now want to pivot over and talk about my next guest. Now, Patrick Jamal, CEO of Maxima Consulting. If you read my blog, which, by the way, cheap plug, check out my Innovation Tour blog available on Akamai.com. I love this guy. Like, we just completely hit it off. Simpsons quotes are just the way to my heart. And this guy just absolutely nailed it. And so rather than stepping on who Maxima Consulting is and what they do, the man himself says it so much better than I possibly ever could. So without further ado, let's just throw over to the interview. Go ahead, take it away, Nick and Patrick. Welcome, partners, and thank you for joining us. It is my great pleasure to introduce the CEO of Maxima Consulting, Patrick Jamal. Patrick, thanks for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you, Nick.
Of course. Now, to get into our conversation today, first thing first, I want to know, tell me about Maxima Consulting.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been in business actually for over 30 years. A lot of people, just particularly in the Akamai space, they think we're a startup, but we're actually, past our third decade and hopefully going into our fourth, fifth, and sixth.
We are at this point, I think.
Yeah, I think I started probably roughly around the same time. We might have a few years on Akamai.
Yeah.
Also from the Boston area as well.
Point DNA, I love it.
Yeah. Smart minds, right?
Wicked smart minds.
Wicked smart. But yeah, historically the company would focus very much on the software space, enterprise software in particular. And we have really built a name for ourselves in being the go-to people for complex projects to get done the right way. And that really comes down to the people. So I really feel, and I believe the company really feels, that we sit at the intersection between people and technology. And it is really our way to bring the two together in a way that is cohesive. And what I really mean by that is, through the years, like a way that we've been able to differentiate and a way that we've been able to support our clients as well as support our employees and contractors and everyone that makes Maxima possible is by kind of getting back to the basics. And that's almost what we're best at. So what I mean by that is when people join Maxima, they've all got goals, whether it's career goals or personal goals. We want to know those goals so we can help support them to be possible. And, an example of that, it was actually very much like the first, say, chapter of Maxima's history was our global relocation program. So, as we were growing here in the U.S., there was a very, very, very big need for IT and engineering talent that did not exist here to come in. And so we've been able to build like a very nice, say, program, if you will, of attracting that talent from abroad and then bringing it into the U.S., working with immigration and making dreams possible, becoming a U.S. citizen and fostering that ability, right? Fostering that dream for people to become and have the American dream.
Yeah.
And so we've been able to do that, and that's been great to just see the stories. And like after all these years, people that may no longer be with us, we bump into each other, part of the network. There's always a genuine thank you and always a genuine appreciation for the people of the past or what they're doing today, and it's all because of something that happened 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. But that's a winning culture. Like there's a lot I want to pull on there, but I love the fact that you work with all of these different regions. And we were talking a little bit before we hit the record button about the beauty of perspective and what you can bring to different people's customers have complex issues every once in a while, but understanding the different compliance regulations that they have to struggle, that they have to work with, or the different frameworks, and just knowing all of that or having people that are from that area, I think gives you guys kind of a rich outlook and culture within your organization to be able to solve some of those problems. So just to compliment you there a little bit
Thank you.
At the top of the show. But that is, I really enjoyed that, and I think that shows why we partner together. But that does lead me into my second question, which is, other than us both being in Boston, both being wicked smart, what made you want to partner with Akamai?
Good question. It's funny being both from Boston, as I've actually lived probably for over a decade out of the U.S. So I'm almost like rediscovering this city too, which is kind of funny. So yeah, total global viewpoint, I guess you could say. But the Akamai partnership's interesting. So before, actually business aside, I myself used to work on Linode servers, and that's how I can say I really cut my teeth and learned Linux. I just had a natural curiosity towards it.
Yeah.
And back in the day, they had the best documentation. So if you wanted to figure out like how to install like WordPress, I always felt like a blog was the best thing to learn from.
Yeah.
You have like all the basic functions. If you could figure that out, you could probably do anything like within reason. So that actually has been close to my heart, if you could say that. But the Akamai partnership in Maxima has really blossomed, particularly over the past like 12, 18 months. Since 2018, that time frame, we've made a lot of investments into cloud technology, primarily containerization, Kubernetes, things of that nature. And looking at what we were able to do and sort of where the trends were going, what the hyperscalers were able to do, and what we believed at the time that there was a need for, looking at different partners and different ways of like cracking the egg, so to speak. Akamai and Linode became like a really obvious choice for us to try to partner up for a couple of reasons, but most importantly, we saw that there was they were not the household name within most of the meetings that we had with our customers, but they were a well-respected and understood and known entity, right?
Yeah.
So like that brand recognition, but also like reputation for quality and security and everything positive. That's great. That was a huge win. And then with the Linode acquisition, we could see a lot of the gaps in what was offered out of the box natively from Linode and what their competitors were offering, and then what we as Maxima are offering with our Cloud Orbit platform. And as I was saying in the beginning, right, like we very strongly feel that we are the intersection between people and technology.
Yeah.
And being able to take those two things and say, hey, wait a minute, you've got this and you need that. We've got that and we need this. Why don't we put them together and literally power up, team up, and get it done? We've got very much so a winning combination. It's an absolute winner.
That's the thing that like people always ask, like, okay, like why would you be a channel first organization? Why do you want to do things a certain way? And it's like, because you guys have this, like you take our scale, your flexibility, your local market expertise, your ability to solve those complex problems. Because like as a vendor, we only go part of the way. You guys finish the story for us. And so that's just something I always appreciate with a great partner like Maxima.
Thank you.
So I think that's something that's really cool. I was curious, since we were talking a little bit about customers, now without naming names or disclosing anything,
Yeah.
do you have any good examples of where you solved a really tricky customer problem, either with Akamai or just simply as part of Maxima Consulting?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've got a couple stories I could share. So one of which is not currently within the Akamai, say, cloud story, but I do want to comment on it because I think it really paints a nice picture of like some of the flexibility and options that we can provide customers jointly or independently.
Yeah.
So we've actually got a very large Scandinavian client, and one of their requirements was you need to support multi-cloud. So in that case, it was GCP and AWS, and we need to have GDPR compliant teams supporting the environment. So no data, no person accessing the system could be from outside the EU.
Right.
With our Polish and European delivery operation center, we could do that, and we are doing that. So that was one of the ways that we could look at the entire organization and figure out a cost competitive, but also and deliver, on their needs in a way that no one else is really able to do so. And I think it really proved the model in the multi-cloud fashion, as well as playing to our strengths, right? So they had access to all sorts of technology and all sorts of use cases that no other local vendor within Europe was able to offer, but done within a compliant European way. And I think that's just something I'm very proud of. And that was one of the stories that Akamai, I think, took a real shining to when we first started getting introduced,
Right.
in how we can mix and match, slice and dice the different offerings depending on the customer's needs. And that's also in the fintech space, with even more regulations and requirements, things like that. So, it's a technological challenge, but it's also a regulatory challenge. I think being able to hit those two really speaks to what type of value and service that we're providing and how Akamai can really benefit from that. But more specifically, actually, on Akamai customers and some of our joint customers, recently we've been in talks. A few of them have signed, some of them we are signing. What we're able to do, and I think this is a major differentiator as well, a lot of people compete on quality, a lot of people compete on price. We're competing on all of those things, but also speed, shortening the time to market.
Right.
So really where the idea for like our Cloud Orbit platform and our cloud services came from, what we saw years ago is, a banking client, they'd want to go and migrate some application, go put it out to tender and have different vendors like us bid on it. And these very large consulting companies would come through with armies of 30, 40, 50 people to go and basically start the whole thing from scratch. And we said, hey, wait a minute, like we're even in the people business and we know that that's wrong.
Yeah.
There is a better way. And so looking at that, right, we could see that they're simply like it was too expensive, too time consuming, and there was actually no guarantee that you're even going to get it done right. So the approach that we took was very much on an outcome-based approach, and we completely did a paradigm shift of how migration should be done. So we are able to build cloud migration factories for anybody, right, big or small,
right.
And we can size those and scale those as needed. And that was like one of the big pieces that Akamai customers are now able to take advantage of for a variety of reasons. The smaller companies, they don't have the manpower, the bandwidth to go and do that migration. And the larger companies, they are perhaps not no one's really super excited about a migration.
Yeah.
The first thing is like this can't go down, right? I mean, this is the most important part of most people's businesses. So being able to like perfect that and be able to make those migrations happen in a matter of weeks, not months or years.
Yeah.
That shortened time to market is a major win for everybody. And that just comes back to savings, and it also comes back to just operational resiliency.
There's a few things I want to tug on there too, because it was like you have a large enterprise customer base. You work in find a lot of financial opportunities. You also operate at a global scale, and you're doing all this with a smile on your face, going through all of these complexities that like most of us in this world don't have the patience for. And so it's just one of those things of like, why partner? Well, this is a shining example. And so thank you for clarifying, because I think as maybe other partners or customers listen to it, like there's a lot that goes into a lot of these deals that we work together. And it's, it really does require, it's like that moment in Predator when they clasp hands together, like that. Like we really need to be on the same page to get those things done. And it just sounds like, even in our last 18 months, we've just been immensely successful together. So I think that's just really cool to see.
Thank you. No, absolutely. And it's cliche, but it's true. Like we're just getting started.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting part too.
All right, so now I want to pivot just a little bit. I want to talk about some new things that you guys have going on at Maxima. And so the quote that I always like to throw out there is, look, Woody Guthrie once said, any fool can make something complicated. It takes a genius to make something simple. And so one of the things that caught my eyes with Maxima is the way that you guys position database services, because it strikes such a great balance. So I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about Maxima's approach to selling services, what you've learned along the way, and of course, what went into creating the new database services site?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a great question. And it's so difficult to be in a room with really, really smart engineers who see things like so profoundly different than like the layman and figuring out how to get that like deep technical message into a way that people understand. That is actually the real skill, in my opinion. That's like the true art, right?
Yeah.
And so like the database as a service is a perfect example of like trying to abstract away what we're doing and how we're doing it in a way that more people understand it. And so, for example, the DBaaS database service that we're offering, we've been doing that for years. That's actually not new. The new part is basically like making it to a menu item and being like, by the way, here we go. And the idea behind that was a couple things. So the first idea was like, hey, we do offer this. Nearly everybody needs a managed database if they're looking for managed cloud services. So why don't we make that easier to understand? And then that actually has unlocked another thing where people are now, and customers are now able to think along with us a little bit more.
Yeah.
So before, when we were like saying, hey, cloud managed SRE, I remember being at a conference in the Netherlands a couple of years ago with a whole big banner behind us. The team was there, and everyone's coming up to us saying, what is SRE? And you realize, well, we're at a cloud conference here, and people don't know what this is. This is maybe a challenge, right?
Yeah.
And so going through those sort of like situations and being like, hey, wait a minute, like we're definitely onto something, but the market just, everyone is actually using SRE in some way, shape, or form, but they don't even realize it. How can we modify the message a little bit?
Right.
And so by saying, hey, we're using SRE practices, our SRE team is doing all of this, and we're going to be managing the database for you, all of a sudden, I get it. Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Yes, yes, and yes. And now people are thinking along together. We're not, you know what I mean? Now it's clear. Now it's viewed more as a Lego building block, no longer as just something in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we live it so much. We're so deep into it, and it's just like, I mean, even in my role, like I start talking about API security, and I'll get someone like, "What's an API?" And I'm like, "I need to back way up. Hold on a second here." So I completely appreciate that, and that again, just going back to the Woody Guthrie quote, like that is so challenging, is to make something just palatable and easy and digestible for everybody else to understand, because we got to bring them into our world before we can tell them how we're going to change it, right?
Right. But it's fun. It is fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So my next question for you, cloud spending projected to reach $720 billion this year. Customers are paying tens of thousands on cloud bills every month. So I was curious, can you share a little bit about how Maxima Consulting is helping customers find cloud savings?
Yeah, absolutely. So cloud spending is increasing, and it has been for the past decade, and it is, I don't know the exact number, but it is going up. Like, this is an absolute truth.
Yeah.
The way that we're able to approach cloud spend is actually in a couple different ways. So you've got multiple cloud providers. You got your hyperscalers, you got your on-prem options, you've got the Akamais of the world, and so on and so forth. But that's actually, in my opinion, just one piece of the puzzle. There's also like this other piece of the puzzle, which I don't think gets enough attention, and that is actually on like the operating model. So for example, people talk lift and shift, which is maybe taking an application on this virtual machine over here and copying it over here.
Right.
Great, you just moved it over here, but you didn't like fix the problem, whatever the problem is. So you just moved it.
Yeah.
And what I'm talking about, like when it comes to say like an SRE platform or things of that nature, many large companies, they need to break this old mindset of like sysadmins and things like that and move their applications into an actual cloud native environment to take advantage of the features and capabilities of the cloud.
Right.
And that requires a kind of a mindset shift. So it's a technological shift, which is a challenge, but almost the easy part. It's like that mindset shift of being able to use things in containers and use things in Kubernetes and autoscale and autoheal and have DR and everything put into it, right, in an automated fashion.
Right.
That is where you're able to now start seeing real savings as well, because you're using the system the way that it was intended to be scalable, which means go up when needed and go down when needed, which is how you get more efficiency. So that's one area. Another area, as we are very much on a Kubernetes and containerization first approach, is eliminating white space. So if we go into any standard enterprise or company, it doesn't have to be a large company, typically you'll see a lot of white space, meaning you'll have an over-provisioned server and they're paying for it. We can look at that and say, hey, why don't we consolidate, all these VMs here into some containers and give you exactly what you need, and you just pay for what you need. So, that's one area as well, or another area. In the most recent area that we're seeing a lot of interest in, that's working very well, is everyone's favorite buzzword right now, artificial intelligence. I'm going to just have to go for it,
Yeah.
Get the Band-Aid off, and talk about AI for a second. We have to do it. So we've also been investing into AI. And one of the AI models that we have is able to go and do an evaluation and an audit report for cloud spend. So we're able to plug in to various customers' cloud accounts and environments, scan their Git repos, scan what services are being used on say like AWS or whoever,
Yeah.
and then compile that, and then automatically come up with a report that will find deficiencies and areas that things could be improved on. Right.
Yeah.
So that is a great way to kind of keep your ducks in a row and figure out, am I in an optimized setting? Is this good? And we're not even talking about migrating from AWS. Like, there's just efficiencies all across the board, and being able to do that in like a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
That is a very big game changer.
Well, I think Gartner had put it, I think, is like the average amount of cloud waste. They put it somewhere like around maybe like between 30 and 40%, which is like when you think about such a huge spend category, $720 billion, like we said, like that is huge. I mean, huge. So, if you can go in there and fix the biggest problem in the boat, like smooth sailing from there on out, right? Like, and that's one of the things that's just like, it's just huge. And so I think that's just something that, when we talk about a consultative partnership, about people who actually can like sit and hear your problems, run through them, and actually be able to find those huge cost savings. Think about where you can redirect those funds, those resources, to then be able to then scale your organization more effectively. So I think it's helpful for people to understand like what this really means for an organization. We talked about making the American dream. This is making an organization's dreams come true. And so I applaud you, because I think that's a really cool way to show value to a customer very quickly.
Thank you. No, it's true, and like everyone's focusing on the cost, but putting that to the side, there is also like an efficiency made in like the resiliency and the reliability of these systems as well.
Yeah.
And I think that really needs to get some attention. If you've got something that is really not going to go down anymore, like going back to actually the Scandinavian clients I'm thinking of, their issue wasn't a cost issue. Their issue was actually the team not being able to get things done in a reasonable amount of time, and when they did, it wasn't done correctly. So it was actually like a real technical challenge that they had, and being able to go in a matter of weeks, clean up the ship and get everything like where it needs to be. That's just been like revolutionary for them. And there's so many instances like that.
I love that, man. That's awesome. Now, we've talked a lot about cloud security, some different pieces here. I always like to humanize our guests a little bit, and I want to know just a little bit about you. And so if you could tell me, what's a goal something big you have on the horizon, something that you're looking to accomplish for 2025 for you personally?
Good question. It's actually a tough question, the toughest one yet. I am practicing saying no more often.
Really?
Yeah, I'm practicing saying no. And
You just said yeah. You're supposed to say no.
No, but yeah. No, I want to focus more on things that are actually important, and I want to focus more on myself and things that make me happy. And I think now with the weather getting warmer, I want to be outside more. Despite the career, like be off the screen more, be outside more, and get back to concerts as well. I'm a huge music fan, and I've noticed over the past few years I've kind of fallen off the concert bandwagon, and I need that. I need that energy. I need that space. So I want to get back out there. Got some concerts lined up, but
Just out of curiosity, so you got anybody on the list? Maybe anyone you'd recommend that that you think the audience should see if they happen to be in Boston?
I'm going to see Pearl Jam in Boston this summer, so that should be good.
I was listening to Pearl Jam this morning, getting ready for this podcast, so it just kismet. It was all meant to be.
Awesome.
Also, I think it's beautiful outside, summertime.
Yep.
Like you got to do the summer concert series and just being able to be out there and just like enjoy it. But
Yeah.
I'm fully with you on the saying no thing. I think as professionals, we're wired to want to jump in and help people all the time, and sometimes you have to be able to say like, if I can't serve from an empty cup, man, I gotta get my rest so that I can do the best I can for my customers. And so I am 100% on board with you, and I may just steal that and use that for myself as well.
Perfect. Actually, it wasn't planned that way, but I think Pearl Jam had a song about saying no.
Oh, God.
I'm gonna Google it afterwards, but yeah. There's some story that he better and like learning to say no and everything. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. We had a great conversation. I cannot wait to see the people react to this episode because there were some great nuggets in here about how other partners can be successful, about the great things Maxima Consulting is doing for customers. So again, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolute pleasure. Can't wait to do it again, hopefully in the future. And thank you for having us. This has been a fantastic partnership, and we're just getting started. So thank you.